what people hate most about a meeting? Two things. First, they hate it when they show up to a meeting that they didn't need to attend. Has this ever happened to you? You're right in the middle of a big project with a tight deadline, and you've got a great head of steam on when you need to stop and put your work aside so you can go to a meeting. Only to find out when you get there that they didn't need you after all, which becomes pretty obvious after you've been sitting there for 28 minutes and you haven't spoken yet. So, knowing that it would probably be rude to just walk out, and you've lost all your momentum on your project anyway, you sit there, fuming. That situation is maddening. The only thing that people hate as much, and sometimes even more, is when they aren't invited to a meeting they think might be important. No one wants to have their time wasted, but even more than that, they don't want to be left out of the loop either. I mean, we've all been there. We know what it feels like to be excluded. And most of us don't want to do that to our colleagues on purpose. So, to make sure that everybody feels welcome and like they're part of the crowd, we tend to invite everyone that we think might be interested in our meetings, even if we don't need them. Which leads to problem one. So we know some of the things that people find frustrating in meetings. What do they like? What makes people happy? When I ask participants in my live workshops what they find most rewarding about the meetings they attend, they tell me three things. First, they say they want to be part of meetings that are relevant to their work and that they find interesting. Okay, no surprises there. Next, many people talk about how good it makes them feel when they know their voice has been heard and that they've had an opportunity to shape the discussion. Finally, people want to get some bang for their buck. When they spend their time in a meeting, they want to know that they're going to get something in exchange. And while walking out with happy, warm, good feelings is quite lovely, very nice, they're actually looking for tangible results, things that they can actually use in their work. So decisions and solutions and answers and things that help them move their work forward. And that's why the first core competency we teach at Lucid Meetings is to know every meeting's purpose and desired outcome. Or, in other words, why you're there and what you expect to get out of the end. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you what the purpose and desired outcomes for a meeting are and why they're so important, how to figure out the purpose and desired outcomes for your meetings, and then how to communicate these to the rest of your group so that you can put them to use to make your meetings better. The meeting purpose answers the question, why? Why are we meeting? What do they intend to do? When written out, we state the purpose as a verb. So, to make a decision about who to hire, or to update the project plan and clear any blocks, or to brainstorm on a bunch of ideas for our new marketing campaign. And the desired outcomes identify what the group should expect to get at the end of the meeting, what those tangible results are going to be. The desired outcomes are written as nouns. So a decision about who we'll hire, or an up-to-date plan and solutions for our blocks, and finally a big old list of ideas. Stating the purpose and desired outcomes for a meeting is the first and the most important thing you can do to make sure that your meetings are giving people more of what they love and less of what they hate. In her book, The Art of the Gathering, Priya Parker said, "Purpose is your bouncer," because being clear about the purpose up front helps everyone see whether a meeting is relevant to them and their job, or maybe whether it's something they should bow out of. And when everyone understands the desired outcomes up front, they're better able to show up prepared. They're not going to go into that meeting about the new candidates thinking that they're just getting an information update when they know that the desired outcome is a decision about who to hire. In high-performing organizations, anyone who wants to put a meeting on the calendar must be able to state the purpose and desired outcomes, because adding a meeting without saying these things up front is considered disrespectful. It's an abuse of the calendar privileges, and it's just not allowed. So, how do you do this? Well, to determine the purpose for your meeting, start by asking why. Why do we need to have this meeting? And then write out your answers. Now, it's not uncommon when you do that to either find that you can't think of a good reason, which means you should cancel the meeting, or alternatively, you have a lot of reasons why you need to meet. When that happens, if you find you've got a whole bunch of whys, that's a good time to stop and do some critical thinking, because otherwise your meeting is likely to be a bit of a mess. I mean, frankly, it's hard enough to get a group of people to concentrate on one thing at a time, much less a whole bunch of different things. So if you have more going on than just one clear purpose, you run the risk of having a meeting where you're gonna spend more time herding cats than you are getting work done. Okay, I know that sounds like a lot of work to do for each and every meeting, but don't worry, I have a tool that will make this way easier for you. In the meeting research we've conducted over the past decade, we found that there are essentially 16 types of meetings, distinct types of business meetings that work really well. And each one of these types is good at achieving some things and not so good for others. In the downloads below, you'll find a workbook listing all 16 types of meetings with example purpose statements for each, showing you what a good purpose statement looks like, and it'll give you ideas for what the purpose statement for your meeting might be. Okay, now let's talk about those desired outcomes, or what you're going to get out of your meeting. These tend to be easier for most people to fill out. Also, it's kind of inspiring when you can look at your meetings and realize they're not just these black holes on the calendar. They actually produce real, honest to goodness, valuable work. Good stuff can happen. So the download of the 16 meeting types also includes desired outcomes, and that's a good place to start if you haven't written these before. And to figure out the desired outcomes on your own, ask yourself, what will we have by the end of the meeting that we don't have going in? If you've got a good, clear purpose, so you're not trying to do too much at once, you shouldn't have too much trouble here. And here's your first superpower tip. When the master facilitators at the Institute of Cultural Affairs design meetings, they look at two kinds of outcomes, the rational aims and the experiential aims, or in other words, the work outcomes and the human outcomes. And this is brilliant because research has shown that while you can write down a decision in a meeting, if people don't buy into it, if they don't believe it's a good idea and they feel like they can get away with ignoring it, it won't get done. That decision never happens if people aren't committed to it. But by thinking up front about not just what work you want to do, but also the experience, the feelings and beliefs that group should walk out with at the end, you're way ahead of the game. Now you've got the purpose for your meeting written out as a verb or action phrase describing why that group should meet, and the desired outcomes written as nouns, getting really specific about what you'll get for the time you've invested. Fabulous. That's a lot of thinking we've done for just these two little pieces of information. But don't worry, it gets much easier after you've done this a few times and you've got a couple of examples you can then copy around. First, you want to make sure that the purpose and desired outcomes appear in your meeting invitations. You can put these as the first thing in the body of the invitation, which looks like this. You'll find an example meeting invitation template in your downloads below. That said, if you send your meeting invites using Outlook or Google Calendar, which a lot of us do, consider taking this up a level and using the meeting purpose as the meeting name. So instead of Acme project status meeting, you might say Acme, update plan and solve problems. Why? Well, first, lots of people just accept meeting invitations onto their calendar without really looking at them. Calendars are handy, but the way they're designed doesn't really encourage people to expect much detail. So lots of folks will never see the desired outcomes and purpose if you have them in your invitation body. When you use the purpose as the meeting name, however, this makes sure it appears right on the calendar where everyone can see it. Second, it's just different enough to be interesting. Like, who wants to go to another project status meeting? No one does. Everyone hates status meetings. But who wants to know how the plan changed and maybe get their problem solved? Me? You? Everybody wants that. Using the purpose for the meeting name, it's just good marketing. What else can we do with the purpose and desired outcomes? Well, we're going to use those as the starting place when we build our meeting plan or agenda, which we'll cover in another lesson. We've got the start and the end all figured out, so now we just need to fill in the bits in the middle. And throughout, I've been talking a lot about how you can use the purpose and desired outcomes to improve the meetings that you lead. But what about the meetings where someone else is in charge? Well, they come in handy here too, because first, as someone who is having your time reserved, you're totally within your rights to ask the meeting leader why you're meeting and what they expect to get out of the time. And then when you do know what those desired outcomes are meant to be, you can help the whole group get to them faster so you can all be done and get about your business. Okay, so that's it for now. Let's recap. I've just covered the 2 key pieces of information that will tell everyone why you're meeting and what you'll get out of the time you've invested. You've learned. People dislike meetings where they weren't needed and don't get to participate. They enjoy meetings that are relevant to them, where they participate, and that have tangible results. Stating the meeting purpose and desired outcome up front can help prevent the meetings that people dislike and create more meetings that they'll enjoy. Purpose is stated as a verb, and it explains why you're meeting. Desired outcomes are stated as nouns and list the results the group should have at the end of the meeting. Desired outcomes may be work outcomes, like action items and decisions, and human outcomes, like understanding and connection. Each of the 16 types of business meetings has a different purpose and achieves different outcomes. Refer to those examples. Include the purpose and the desired outcomes in your meeting invitations. And with that, here's your assignment. First, complete the quiz for this lesson to double check what you've learned. And then, take a look at your calendar and review your upcoming meetings and make sure each and every one has a clear purpose and clear desired outcomes. Okay, now go meet well.